than 9/11. 9/11 killed almost 4,000 people. It cost $1 trillion. It was a terrible tragedy. But other than those people and their families, those 4,000 people, did it change our lives? Okay, it's a bit of a hassle to go through the airport now. But other than people who join our volunteer armies, it really hasn't changed our day-to-day lives, has it? You wouldn't know a war is going on. But when the attack came not through jet planes into office towers, but into the minds of 1,000 North American editors and producers who said, you know what? There's a bit of a risk here. There's no risk when I run the Da Vinci Code making fun of Catholics, because the worst they'll do is write a letter to the editor and have a bake sale. There's no risk if I poke fun at Jews. If there was, Woody Allen wouldn't have a career. That's what he does. Scientologists, half the jokes on late night TV are about that faith or cult. Can I even say that anymore? Well, I can about those. But why is it that the one faith that cannot be criticized, I think that devastated our Western traditions of healthy, vigorous debate. We had a self-censorship, a greater victory than 9/11. And 9/11 was a wake-up call, at least for some. But it was a quiet and stealthy jihad that got 1,000 Western liberals in the main to censor themselves. How do we deal with other religions? When you've got polygamy in Utah with the fundamentalist Church of Latter-day Saints, fundamentalist Mormons, we sweep in and scoop the kids out. When we've got polygamy in Toronto and Ali Hindi says, without fear to the newspaper, oh sure, I solemnize polygamous marriages. No one mentions it. No one talks about it. Soft bigotry of low expectations. What about the feminists? Again, I say I'm the liberal now, Moses, because I don't see Judy Rabick ringing the phone off the hook. Warning, women are being honor killed in Toronto. I don't see Henry Morgenthaler raising the alarm about the separation of mosque and state, as he surely would if instead of it being a Muslim imam persecuting me. How do we deal with offensive speech? Because I don't doubt that some people were offended by what we did in the magazine. Many weren't. By the way, I was surprised and impressed with the number of Muslims and Arabs who supported us. I at first didn't believe it when I saw many Muslims taking out subscriptions to our magazine, but it was summed up by a letter we published from a Muslim woman named Rawa Khalid. I almost remember it verbatim. She said, essentially, I didn't cross the ocean to get away from that hellhole to have Sharia law follow me across the sea. So how do we deal with hate? Because I don't doubt that what I published was offensive to some. And you know, there are some out there much more offensive than me. There are Holocaust deniers. There are racists. There are anti-Semites. There are people of the vilest bigotry. How do we deal with them? If my case is acquitted, well, others are convicted every month in this country under our hate speech laws. Not for doing hateful actions. By the way, I think there should be many things that are outlawed. I think conspiracy to commit violence, incitement to murder. There are words that are crimes. We know this. Defamation, copyright violation, fraud, forgery. These are all state limits on ideas. But we accept them, and over hundreds of years we've developed real defenses. For example, in defamation law, truth is a defense. Not in the Human Rights Code under which I'm charged. Fair comment is a defense. Not in the case of Maclean's magazine. I think that there is actually a positive value to hate speech. Let me tell you what I mean. And I'm actually going to quote the former executive director of EGAL, Canada's foremost gay lobby, Gilles Marchildon, who was talking about a case of an Alberta pastor who wrote a very vigorous anti-gay screed in the Red Deer Advocate, that's the newspaper out west there. I don't know if it was hateful, but it certainly was rough. I'd call it rude. It was rude. A letter to the editor by a Christian pastor. And he was taken before the Alberta Human Rights Commission. And Gilles Marchildon of the gay rights lobby, EGAL, said, no, that's wrong. I want anti-gay hate speech, said Marchildon. What the heck? You want anti-gay hate speech? Yes, he said. Number one, I want to know who the haters are. I want them to identify themselves. I want to know who to avoid, who the good guys and the bad guys are. I agree. I'm glad I know about Mohammed al-Masri now. Number two, said Marchildon, I want a teaching moment. I want to say, geez, let's stop for a second and talk about what we just saw and why it's wrong. And number three, he doesn't want to outsource his civic duty. He doesn't want to run to the nanny state and say, make him stop. No, he wants to be a participant in democracy. He wants to teach his people how to fight back, how to debate, how to write letters to the editor, how to be confident, culturally confident. I ask you to think back over the past century of all the great liberal causes. Suffrage for women, equality for blacks, the gay rights movement itself. Each of these was achieved not through muscle, not through violence, not through money or political power, but through speech alone, for they had nothing else. Take away all my rights except for free speech, and I'll win them all back. And those speakers for women's equality and racial equality and gay equality were not just passionate, they were by definition offensive to the orders of the day. It was appalling to say that homosexuality was not a crime, let alone something to be tolerated or celebrated. That was offensive. It was offensive to say that women were persons. It was offensive to say that blacks were equal to whites. We need offensive speech. We need it on the spectrum of ideas. And anyone who believes that there should be ideas, should be a spectrum of ideas, should be appalled when anyone on that spectrum is gagged. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the invitation. Appreciate your invitation.